Very good morning from the KTN News Center. Many thanks for joining us. It's 30th day of April 2017, exactly 99 days to this year's general election on the 8th of August. And we are right stuck in the middle, or rather towards the business end of the all-important political party primaries. Of course, today the focus is on the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM party, conducting their nominations in the county of Nairobi, one of their biggest strongholds. Of course, it is one of the biggest stakes in terms of the balance for power. Of course, Nairobi being a very hotly contested county between the two sides of the political divide. ODM, or the NASA, the opposition side, having a slight advantage over the Jubilee side. And that is what we focus on, the ODM primaries here in Nairobi. Our team is spread across this county to just give you the lowdown, the latest on the voting process. Voting underway in most of the polling stations which are being used by the ODM party here in Nairobi. There have been some that have had a slow start. We shall be trying to take you to some of those locations. We have Akisa Wandera in Embakasi South. We have Sophia Onuna in the upper side of Embakasi. We have our senior political reporter Duncan Haimba applying his trade in Ruaraka and Kasarani. And of course, we have Timothy Otieno in Langata, and have the others. We shall be taking you there to just find out what's happening and how the process, the voting process in these ODM nominations is ongoing. Remember, the governor's position is not in contention. The senatorial position as well is not in contention, having had one Gabriel Chapia Bukachi being unopposed, as well as, of course, the incoming governor Evans Kidero. So it is between the big battles are in the woman representative position, the member of the National Assembly, as well as a member of the County Assembly. Those are the positions we'll be taking a look at. Let's now start in Dagoretti, where our Sharon Momanyi is keeping an eye on things there. And Sharon, good morning. What do we have so far? Is polling underway? What do you have for us?
Okay, so we are at Westlands Primary School, which is one of the polling stations in Westlands constituency. And I don't know if you can see around, there's pretty much nothing happening at the moment. The presiding officers are not yet here. The ballot materials have not yet arrived. We've just been speaking to some of the voters here saying that some came as early as 6 a.m. There's so many who have come and left. But you would remember that the Member of Parliament here, Tom Wanyonyi, got a direct ticket from ODM, so that is not in contest. So what is actually of interest here is the Member of County Assembly ticket. And I just want to speak to one of the voters here to speak to us about his experience at this polling station. And good morning to you.
Good morning.
Perhaps how early did you come?
I was here by 6 in the morning, actually, but up to now, nothing has really happened. We came very early in the morning because we had been told that the voting will start at around 6. But so far, we've not seen any voting material and not any word. So we are just relying on maybe press to let us know what is happening. Yeah.
So, but you're going to be here and waiting to
wait
see
until I vote. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if any other can get any other experience, but that's pretty much what is happening here, which is really nothing at the Westlands Primary School polling center. So we shall keep looking around to see what is happening. We understand the other polling centers in Westlands constituency include the Muguga Primary School, Highway Complex, and Visa Oshwal. So we shall be doing a spot check just to see how the exercise is going on in those other areas in Westlands.
Thanks, Sharon Momanyi there in Westlands. She's plying that area, Westlands, Dagoretti North and Dagoretti South, to just find out how the voting process is ongoing in these ODM nominations. Let me introduce my guests this morning, and we have political analyst here with me. I have Dismas Mokua and Brian Mutie. Thank you for joining us this morning.
A pleasure.
How would you say the ODM nominations are proceeding so far? I mean, we've seen some chaotic scenes over the last few days in other parts. What do you think? How do you think the process? How do you rate the process here in Nairobi?
Well, you know, the Jubilee nominations and ODM outside Nairobi have faced a number of challenges. And one was expecting that ODM would actually learn and ensure that the last nominations in Nairobi are done with high levels of precision. Also, given the fact that the deputy party leader, Alias Sanjo, is the one who is supposed to be in charge of these nominations, one would have expected high levels of meritocracy. But it's very disappointing that folks wake up early in the morning on a Sunday, they go to the polling station, and 3 hours later, there's nothing happening, and there's no official communication. I really think that's appalling. It's a stain on Mr. Raila Odinga's reputation.
Brian?
Absolutely. I think if you look at the timing of the nomination for ODM, especially in Nairobi, then you realize that the morale is very low, owing to the fact that some of the key members of ODM have been given buys. They are not going to contest in form of direct nominations. They're starting with the Kidero, of course. And if you look at the picture from Westlands, where Wanyonyi was also given a buy, I think it paints a glim picture on the organizational on the organizational issue within the party. On first of all, why they chose on a Sunday, and again, if you look at the mood and atmosphere outside there, you find even people are not available. Most of the people have traveled outside the town for holidays, because Monday, of course, is a Labor Day.
A long weekend.
It's a long weekend. So most of the people are not around to participate, and the morale is not there. And if you look at the numbers, the people who are going to be voted in are just MCS. They do not really excite the people within the locality. People are not excited to just go and elect an MCA who is not, to them, perhaps I would want to say, is not going to be so much impactful in terms of the politics of the day. So I think it was a matter of organization.
Is the fact that we don't have a gubernatorial contest nor a senatorial one, contributing to this low-key nature of this thing?
No, far from it. I think it's just organization and mobilization. And as the day grows, you'll see a lot more activity taking part in those races. And maybe contrary to what Brian has said, if you're actually a registered voter in Nairobi and you know there's an election taking place and then you decided to go up country, then probably you're not even supposed to be voting in Nairobi. You're supposed to be voting up country. It's just a poor organization. And in these awards, what goes out around very fast that the election process has begun. And you can be sure that as we get into midday and later on in the day, there'll be long queues and winding queues of people wanting to cast their ballots. And maybe just to correct an impression created by Brian, Dr. Kidero did not get a director nomination. He was unopposed. So there was nobody who declared interest here. No, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
It's not different word for that.
People were invited to declare the interest in running for the gubernatorial position and ODM ticket. And it's only Kidero who presented his interest. A direct nomination would mean there were 20 guys and the party leadership picks on one person and they give him a ticket.
All right.
I don't think when you say that Kidero was given a direct nomination, it does not mean to me that he was unopposed. And I said in this show that before we had an issue where some of the aspirants had already expressed their displeasure with that decision, where some candidates were given those kind of advantages. And you realize that most of them were given this ticket at the chagrin of potential contenders who were saying that they had not been given, they had not put their papers in order, in reading for presentation, and that did not all go well with most of them. And that's why I'm also saying that we are likely to see a lot of voter apathy, especially on the ODM side, when it comes to voting for the governorship.
Well, Brian, there are two scenarios here. I've not seen anybody come in the public space and complain that he was interested in becoming the Nairobi governor on an ODM ticket, and there were shenanigans or mischief, and he was stopped. Nobody has come up. When a political party says, if you're interested in becoming a governor on an ODM ticket in Nairobi, please declare your interest. If you don't declare your interest, if you don't meet the minimum, you don't pay the required fee, you cannot go to the top of a tree and start complaining. And the same thing happened for the senatorial seats. I don't know, for some reason, people are not interested. And that young man called Chapia finds himself unopposed. Now, again, you cannot say that young man called Chapia Bukachi had so much resource to tell everybody else to keep a distance. So there was lack of information, or people are not just interested. And you cannot blame the party leadership for that.
Contrary to what's happening in Machakos, for instance, and maybe Brian can tell us more about this, where we have two candidates or two aspirants, that is Wavinya Ndeti and Bernard Keller, all wanting the Wiper ticket for Machakos governor's position. Yet the party seems to want to give Wavinya Ndeti. It has that lineup, and there has been, they are supposed, Kalonzo Musyoka did say that the nominations would go on today. Keller and team have gotten a court order barring that.
Yeah.
What's happening in Machakos?
I think, first of all, Kiela goofed in the initial stages when he started, meddling with the affairs of the management of Machakos County in terms of securing his relationship with Mutua. It has so early age in terms of management of Machakos County is concerned. In fact, you realize that, Ben, the first year in office, Kiela, as the deputy governor, was already in bad records with the incumbent, and this did not augur well. He wasted so much of his time fighting the incumbent and all that. In the long run, he lost because at the end of the day, the Mutua made himself, distinguished himself as a formidable force within the Kamba politics. Again, here we have a situation where now Kalonzo is actually, in a dilemma to choose a candidate who will fly the flag for Machakos and represent the interests of Machakos people. Here comes Wavinya Ndeti, a woman of substance who has actually played the politics of the day in a very well calculated way. You remember, she was second to Mutua with a very small margin, actually, I must say, and she marshaled
in a very small party.
In a very small party. So that shows she has the mettle. And again, so Musyoka looks at this scenario and analyzes the two people in terms of benefit analysis. Who is going to bring something on the table to, and expand our basket? And she sees Wavinya as more, potentially able to bring more votes than Nikiela, and then goes to dish those direct. Okay, per se, she did not.
Bad moves by Kiela.
Bad moves because she's a loser here. She has lost.
In Machakos?
For Kalonzo to get the entire Kamba vote, he needed to make peace with Professor Kivutha Kibwana, Charity Ngilu, and Wavinya Ndeti. And those three strong political personalities, all of them have said we are supporting Kalonzo Musyoka. And in exchange for that, there was a very subtle admission that Wavinya Ndeti is going to be the automatic candidate. Although when she was being received, they said there's going to be a party primary. And it's at that stage that somebody like Bernard Keller needs to be reading the signs to establish that nobody's interested in his candidature. Right. And maybe he should be speaking to Wavinya to get a position, maybe in the county government. And for people who know Bernard Keller, they say that his activity, his demeanor, his persona is not very pleasant to majority of the politicians within the Machakos community. So maybe he should start counting his losses.
All right, we'll get into that as we speak about NAS. And speaking of which, remember, we are keeping an eye on the ODM nominations here in Nairobi. We want to get away from that, but stand by for our team, that is, for our reporters who are spread across this city, capital city county of Nairobi. We have Timothy Otieno in Langata, and instead here we have one Mark Namaso. Sharon Umanyi is in Dagoretti and Westlands. We have Zinzi Kibiku in Roysambu, and in Kasarani and Ruaraka we have our senior political affairs reporter Duncan Haimba. Sophia Onuna is in Embakasi North and East, and then we have Akisa Wandera in Embakasi South, and we have and of course we have Rita Tina keeping an eye on what's happening at Orange House in terms of reactions from the party headquarters as the ODM nominations continue. Away from that, let's speak about one of the big stories of this week, that arguably the biggest story, political story, that is, of course, the National Super Alliance naming its flag bearer. Finally, many people said this was not a surprise, and one of them is here in Dismas, and he called it right. But before we go to that, let's listen into that big announcement by the ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi at the Uhuru Park on Thursday.
Atapeperusha bendera ya NASA ni engineer, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga.
Right, there has been a lot of debate about this. Let's now listen to some of the reactions to that NASA announcing that it is Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, a replica of the 2013 presidential ticket.
Sisi tunataka ajenda ya kuunganisha Wakenya, sio kutafutia watu watatu chakula yao. Hapana. Sisi tunataka kutafutia wa milioni 40 vijana wetu kazi.
Tangaza mapema
ati ni rematch ya 2013 na tutawaonyesha kivumbi, na safari hii sio 50+1. Sasa ni confirmed 70+1.
Anybody imagining that Isaac Ruto now has a better chance or a better bargaining position for some votes in Rift Valley is taking the residents of Rift Valley as if they are fools.
So
we know
it's a gamble.
It's a gamble with very little, with very little sense.
It will be a very difficult task to convince the Kamba nation to play the second fiddle when they played that in 2013, and in 2017 they expected their son to be the flag bearer.
He and party leader, as he negotiated the NASA process through dangerous turbulence. We urge them to remain vigilant and guard against constructive Jubilee propaganda designed to scuttle the opportunity that we have fought for.
Right, so some of the reactions to NASA naming its presidential flag bearer, that is, of course, ODM party leader Raila Odinga. And prior to this, Dismas Mokua here on the show predicted that. Well, many people predicted.
No, but they did not do it on the show. They were not on air.
What was your initial reaction to this?
Because when you look at the NASA, the principals, when they were looking at them, they said, let's get a candidate who is very popular. And they divided the country. And after going through so many permutations and combination, they settled on Mr. Raila Odinga. That's what my crystal ball had told me a day before he was pronounced, and I'm very proud of that. But now looking at the ticket, when you look at the architecture of the NASA ticket, it has changed fundamentally from what we had in 2013. In as much as it's Raila and Kalonzo at the top, there are so many additions. For instance, from the time we got into multi-party politics, you've never had Raila, Kalonzo, Musalia, Wetangula, and now Isaac Ruto in one ticket. This is the first time they're in one ticket. And secondly, this is the strongest opposition we have from 2002, from the time again we went to multi-party politics. You remember during the first multi-party politics, or rather elections, we had Simon Nyachai running alongside the main candidates. And then the next election, we had Kalonzo Musyoka alongside the other candidates. And the last election, we had Musalia Mudavadi. This time, really, now it's going to be a proper two-horse race. There's no third horse. Of course, okay, there are some candidates who are running maybe for ceremonial purposes. For instance, there is Peter Ndeng, Ekuru Aukot, probably Dida, and others. But ceremonial purposes. Because it's well known in Kenya that if you want to run on ideology, the way it's run in the West, that you want to, maybe you're talking about liberal politics, conservative politics, some ideologies, people will listen to you, they'll be happy, but they'll not vote for you. Because when you look at this NASA arithmetic, is anchored on tribal numbers. Even the headline in the Standard has got the numbers.
Yeah. But Dismas, you say this is the strongest opposition we've had. How does this compare, for example, to the Pentagon in 2007, which had William Ruto, it has Musalia Mudavadi, it had Najib Balala, it had Joseph Nyaga. How does it compare to that?
But recall where the bigger players were. Because, in those three elections, when you look at them, Nyacha was playing on the outside in one election. Then you had Kalonzo in another election. And then you had Musalia on another election. And, they were able to chip into some of the votes. Like, for instance, during the last election, depending on whom you speak with, people say if Musalia Mudavadi would have remained within the team, the 483,000 votes would have changed the outcome of that election in terms of absolute numbers and even in terms of emotion. Even when you look at the headline in The Nation, he's actually the one who is supposed to deliver, him and Wetangula, the biggest number of votes to the NASA lineup. So, and that's very key. And then now, added into that, you have now Charity Ngilu, who has said that she's going to be supporting NASA using Kalonzo Musyoka. That was a dynamic which we didn't have in the last election. And then, of course, the Jubilee government stands accused of issues around corruption and other things, and also including ICC, which was a factor then, which may not be a factor now. Right. Now, if you look at the absolute numbers, for instance, if Governor Isaac Ruto is able even to deliver only 200 votes to the NASA side, that will be an equivalent, 200,000 votes to the NASA side. That will be an equivalent of a loss of 400,000 votes from Jubilee. So this thing is very, very dynamic.
Right.
And maybe when you, in that clip, you've seen a gentleman by the name Nyenze saying that, you know, it will be a tall order to sell this candidature to the Kamba Nation, which again invites speculation. Who is Nyenze speaking for? And is he speaking on behalf of Kalonzo, or is he speaking on behalf of Jubilee? Whom is he representing? Because immediately made that statement, the entire leadership of the Kamba community came up for the first time, and it was very swift to dissociate itself from that statement, which I found to be very curious.
What do you think about this ticket?
Just to pick from where Dismas has left, the issue of the combination actually being disgruntled by Nyenze's statement is not true. Because if you go to Kambani right now, the electorates are divided. There are those who are of the opinion that Kalonzo was shortchanged, and there are those who feel that Kalonzo did the right thing, in the sense that they have done the analysis and they have looked at the two scenarios where Kalonzo actually goes it alone. They didn't really find, some of them are not finding anywhere he could have gone, having stood alone or gone it alone. Others are looking at it in this way. That is far, better in NASA being playing number two, in the sense that his interests are more catered, he's more elevated, his interests are, more relevant to the times of the day. And when you look at another scenario where some people are saying that he ought to also have jumped to Jubilee, others are saying that the loopholes had already been, the spaces had already been occupied.
This must ask something.
Sure.
Francis Nyenze is a leader of minority in the National Assembly.
Sure.
But apart from that, does he have political capital to make those statements, and who is he speaking for?
I think a general always has some foot soldiers who normally support him during times of battle, and this is not an exception. And when you listen to the first statements that Nyenze made, perhaps you could say that he was not the one saying this. Perhaps it was a party leader talking through Nyenze. But the last ones
but the party leader said very
by the way, but you remember that he was actually categorical that Nyenze as a person is speaking as a person, and he has no problem with what Nyenze said. At some point, if you remember very well, Ben.
Because then, why? I'm struggling to understand. Why would Kalonzo Musyoka, have his foot soldiers going to the contrary after the big announcement has been already been announced?
That's where I was coming, actually, Ben. That's why I would say, initially, when he did this first initial statement, perhaps Kalonzo had somehow, made him to do so. Or rather, he spoke through Nyenze. But this time around, after the announcement, I can categorically say that Nyenze was still picking from the initial statements that he had made, and the same steam that he was actually having. But this time around, I think it was, you could even see the party leader saying that those are his own words, but I am also putting him in order, to an order, so that he does not really continue with the messing up the ground.
Ben, having spoken with NASA insiders as well as WEPA insiders, they're looking at two scenarios. Either Kalonzo is testing waters using Nyenze, or in fact Nyenze is a beneficiary of an external force that is disappointed with the NASA unity, and they'd like to use him to stir the waters so as to create a confusion within the Kamba community. But be that as it may, the person who has capital, political capital, especially on the presidential vote in Kambaland today, is Kalonzo Musyoka. As soon as he says yes, everybody else has to come online. If anybody who tries to decampaign Kalonzo in the Kamba nation today will have himself to blame. And I'll not be surprised if they plant a candidate to run against Nyenze just to teach him a lesson.
All right. We'll keep that conversation ongoing. We'll get into political pages, because that is what the big splashes on the today's newspapers are saying. It's all about NASA's grand plan to bag 9 million votes. That is Sunday. The Standard on Sunday, the Sunday Standard rather, and then the Sunday Nation, hidden forces behind Raila Kalonzo NASA deal. We'll try and analyze some of these issues, gentlemen. But before we do that, let's take you to the ballot, to the ballot here on the ODM nominations here in Nairobi. And let's start in Roysambu, where our Zinzi Kibiku is, and she's keeping an eye on things. Zinzi, what is happening in Roysambu? Is voting ongoing? What do you have for us?
All right, good morning, Ben. That's right. Roysambu Primary School. Voting literally just started 5 minutes ago, but before I can show you the situation in this specific classroom, I just want to bring you and our viewers really quickly up to date with what's happening within Roysambu constituency. Within this area, there are 3 polling stations. There is one called Cornerstone, which is a church, and immediately after the service, we're told that they will then open it to the public for voting to begin. Njadindi Primary School, as well as where I am now, which is Roysambu Primary School. But earlier on, Njadindi Primary School was cancelled as a polling station due to logistic problems. But right now, also on the ground, they're still seeing if they can open that area, because for that specific location, there's quite a big population. So for them, really, Ben, to come all the way from Njadindi Primary School to a Roysambu Primary School, it is quite a distance, and those are quite big numbers over there. And really, on top of that, I just want to give you a feel also of how the situation is in this specific school, in the primary school, Roysambu Primary School, so you can see how it is. This is where voters come in through, and they get their name checked. And in fact, one of those voters is Ronald right now. Good morning, Ronald. How long have you been waiting to vote?
I've been waiting for 1 hour and a half.
All right, so I can see you're ready to vote. You have your ballot paper.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So Ronald is the second person to maybe checking his vote this morning. The lady beside Ronald was the very first person to vote earlier this morning. And as you can see, everything here is ready to go. Ben, earlier on in the morning, voting had kind of stagnated because some of the officers or other agents were not fully confirmed. They didn't come in with their envelopes to show that they are an agent from a certain aspirant. But now things are starting to move around here, and hopefully we'll begin to see that along the area. Ronald is about to vote right now, as you can see him. There he is. He's the second person to vote in this specific constituency, in this ward, in Zimmerman. There you go. All right. So, Ronald, do you feel like, do you have confidence that these specific elections will be credible for Kenyans?
Yeah, I see it is going to be credible because it is peaceful, and we are here to cast our votes for the women rep. And the way I see things, the person I'm going to vote for is going to be.
Okay, all right. Okay. Ronald right there, one of the residents here in Zimmerman Ward, who is very, very confident about it, as you can see, and he's finally cast his ballot. Ben, just to round up this issue, I just also wanted to give you a bit of a highlight. Within the constituency here in Roysambu, Kahawa West will have about 5 polling stations, and Githurai will have about 3 polling stations, and we're in one of the ones here in Zimmerman. And I told you earlier, Zimmerman has 3 of them. One was cancelled, and they're still not sure about that. So, Kitili, that is the latest on my end here in Roysambu Primary School.
All right, many thanks. Zinzi Kibiku there in Roysambu, at the Roysambu Primary School polling station. Things a bit slow, but starting to pick up, as Zinzi there tells us. Let's now switch gears to Orange House, the party headquarters, and find out if there's anything happening there. And our senior reporter, Rita Tinina, is there to try and see if there's, of course, that is where we shall be pitching tent to get all the communication from the party throughout the day during the nominations today. Rita, good morning.
A very good morning to you, Ben. Not much happening here at Orange House. None of the officials of the National Elections Board are here. Only a handful of people are here, and most of them are here to raise complaints about the concluded primaries. I'm joined by one of them from Vihiga. He was seeking the party's ticket for a ward there. Maybe you can tell us your name, where you are from, and what issue you're chasing here this morning.
Well, my name is Daniel Otroma. I come from Vihiga County. I was vying for MCA, Luanda Township Ward. I came here because my opponent came home yesterday celebrating, and I didn't know that. I don't know why, because I was given a provisional certificate after having won the nomination. And I understand very well if there was any problem emanating from that election, the right procedure was that my opponent ought to have gone to the county election tribunal, so that from there, if he is not satisfied, then he comes to the national tribunal. But right now, I'm told that he came to the national tribunal, of which I was not invited. The allegation is that I was invited through the SMS, which I never received, and it is like a determination has been entered against me. I was not heard, so I have come here to complain, so that justice should be done.
What have you been told so far?
Well, I've been told that the hearing was done, and they are just waiting for a determination. Yes.
So you should wait here? Will you go back to Vihiga?
No, I want to go back to Vihiga. I must find out what the law says about this.
How many were you in the contest, and what was the margin between you and your opponent?
We were 3 in number. I got 410. My follower got 284. The other one got about 26 votes only. Yes.
Thank you very much. Ben, one of the aspirants here seeking justice, there is also another, I can see 2 or 3 of them. If you can just come this way. They say they are from Nyatike, the same issue they want to raise here at the headquarters. Maybe one of you can speak to us, you or your colleague.
Yes, I'm Daniel Malala. I'm coming from Nyatike, Migori County. Yes, we did the election in Kaleru Ward. Pale Kaleru Ward kulikuwa na competitors katika chama cha ODM, walikuwa wanne. Mmoja aliyeshinda kiti cha ODM kwa sasa ni mgonjwa, yuko hospitalini, hakuweza kuja hapa. Lakini cha kushangaza ni kwamba yule alikuwa namba 3 anatembea na mbunge wa Migori ambaye anaitwa Junet Mohamed kuja ili kupitisha mtu ambaye alikuwa namba 3. And that's why we are here to protest. Hatutakubali Junet Mohamed aachane na uchaguzi wa Kaleru Ward. Ukiangalia katika historia ya Kaleru Ward, hii miaka ya nyuma, karibu election 3 zenye zimepita, ODM party haijakuwa na mgombea wake ambaye ameshinda hicho kiti. Na ni kwa sababu ya mambo kama haya tunaambia ODM wakifanya tena mambo ambayo hayataenda na matakwa ya wenyeji wa Kaleru Ward, basi sisi wote kwa pamoja hatutamuunga mtu ambaye watampatia certificate ambaye hakuchaguliwa na chama cha ODM.
Kwa hivyo nyinyi hapa mnawakilisha ule ambaye ako hospitali, ule alikuwa namba 1?
Yes, yule alikuwa namba 1, alikuwa anaitwa Thomas Omondi Akungo.
Hapa mmeelezwaje? Mmepeleka malalamishi yenu kwenye tribunal hapa ndio mmekuja?
Tumeenda tribunal na tumeambiwa cases za ward zitaangaliwa kesho. So that's why we are here and we are stranded, because according to the schedules of IBC tunahofia huenda wakatufungia wakati ambao sasa hatuna mahali ambapo tutaenda. Tumetoka huko kwa wakati huu na tumeambiwa hakuna biashara yoyote inaendelea hapo. Yeah.
Well, Ben, some of the complainants here, the aspirants who lost, or those who say they won, but certificates were given to other people, a handful of them are here. We are waiting to see whether the National Elections Board officials will arrive here in the next few hours. But as of now, no officials whatsoever, just the aspirants who have various issues to raise with the Orange House are here trying to get some audience. I remember the primaries, these were the ones that are being conducted today, were slated for Tuesday last week. They were called off after the warehouse where the materials are being stored was raided. And the Nairobi polls team was also disbanded. So today, as the primaries go on across the city, here at Orange House, we'll wait to see what the party will come up with, what the party will do to address the complaints that are being raised here. Ben.
Thank you, Rita. Rita Tinyale at the Orange House, the ODM party headquarters, where we shall be pitching tent throughout the day to get the latest ODM communication concerning today's ODM nominations. Not much happening. Dismas, we have seen some complaints there about from that MCA aspirant, for example. Do you think they'll get justice?
You know, in the past, the ODM party primaries have been unfair, and they've not been credible. But I think this time around we need to give Mr. Raila Odinga credit that there's a semblance of fairness. I mean, for the first time, you have people like Jacob Medio, who understand has never ever won an election, but found his way in parliament via a special purpose ticket. And then you also have Raila's own brother, who was given a beating, and everything has been nullified. Even shocking from Mbadi, who is the party chair, who said so beaten Karoli, but also the certificate, or rather, the election was nullified. And one really hopes that Judy Pareno is actually listening to this. You cannot have somebody winning and declared a winner, and then in the middle of the night you give the certificate, you add the certificate to another person. Really, that's unfair. Even if you don't understand any law in Kenya, it's unacceptable. And one hopes that what those gentlemen are talking about is actually factual, that it's not about any propaganda, or they're not there on some, mischief. And you would expect that they would be given their certificates to go back home. The first gentleman who spoke was very emotional, that he won, and he knew that he has the provisional certificate, he's at home enjoying his nyama choma and maybe beer. And then across the road, a fellow who was number 3 comes celebrating, has broken into dance and song with a certificate. That's really unacceptable. That's the best way to kill political party internal discipline. And I think Mr. Raila Odinga needs to review that.
Right. I think, Ben, I want to differ slightly with my colleague when he says that they are getting it somehow better than before. The same choruses that we were treated to in 2013 up to now are still the same. And there's not much difference when you look at the nature of nominations that they have conducted. Look at Busia, where somebody like the incumbent governor actually had bloated numbers in terms of the numbers that he got through donations compared to what was actually on the register. And at the end of the day, nothing much happened apart from Otuoma just bolting out of the party and going independent. Look at the shenanigans that we have been treated at Siaya. Orengo just comes from the blues, no campaigns, no nothing, and he's handed that certificate with the bloated numbers. Look at Nyang'nyong trying to force himself, and the system's trying to protect him, and also trying to support him only for the 190
what are you
to
saying?
raise.
Are you saying Orengo, if people love him?
Oh, no. Ben, if you look closely,
my view, Brian,
wait a minute.
Is missing some points.
Wait a minute.
Let's look at the case of Busia Brian.
I just wanted to say something.
There was a party primary between Otuoma and Ojamong. And Ojamong is accused of having inflated figures, inflating numbers. And Otuoma did not register a petition. He decided to move as an independent.
He saw it coming.
So if he moved out, who are going to be parties in the case?
All the indications were that the system, all the indications were that the system was favoring Otuoma, because the party was not that categorical that they were really putting Ojamong into task. They never did that. They never showed that they were really disgruntled by the whole process. And only for Otuoma to read the signs on the wall that really the systems were against him, only for him to bolt out.
All right.
Yeah. Would you like to discuss Mr. Raila Odinga's brother, who was given a beating? I mean, if Raila wanted to flex his muscles, he would have said that Oburu Odinga gets the ticket, but now Dr. Chanda has got the ticket.
But Ojamong is brother-in-law to Raila.
Anyway, I want us to have a conversation later on the show about which side of the political divide the two big political parties, Jubilee and ODM, have carried out more credible nominations. I want us to try and analyze that. Let's get back to our political pages very quickly as we continue to, of course, update our viewers on what's happening in the ODM nominations here in Nairobi today. We are everywhere here in this capital city county of Nairobi. Let's get back to this issue of the NASA presidential flag bearer and what this means. Now, let's talk about the individuals in that Pentagon, the new Pentagon. Let's start with Musalia Mudavadi. And this is a story on the Sunday Standard. NASA's grand plan to bag 9 million votes. These are some numbers that have been, crunched here by our editors at the Standard. 2,248,379, basically 2.2 million votes is what Musalia Mudavadi is expected to bring from Western Kenya. Kalonzo Musyoka is expected to have 1.7 million voters from the lower eastern part of Kenya. And from the Rift Valley, Isaac Kiprono Ruto is expected to bring 205,000 votes. And then from Nyanza, the region Raila Odinga, where Raila Odinga enjoys overwhelming support, is supposed to bring in 1.7. This is a total of 9.1 million votes from the NASA project. According to this story, the number of votes NASA estimates Jubilee will get is 7.2 million. Well, that's a difference of 2 million votes. Let's start with Musalia Mudavadi. Let me start with you, Dismas. Can he deliver 2.2 million? from 450, and the dynamics have changed.
Okay, let's go to the architecture first of NASA.
Yes.
The founder of NASA, obviously, is Musalia Mudavadi. I think when he was in the political call for some time, he came up with this special purpose vehicle, which was moribund for a long time till Raila Odinga came and he gave it life. And he catalyzed it and it became very active. And in my view, the principal beneficiary of this NASA lineup is actually Musalia Mudavadi for two reasons. Number one, if Raila Odinga becomes the president of the Republic of Kenya and he respects the MOU, which I understand is now a public document and only runs for one term, then Musalia Mudavadi is going to secure the entire Luhya vote as well as the Luo vote in Western Kenya. So when he goes for a negotiation now in 2022 or 2027, he'll be in a very strong position. Because now the members of the Luo community will say you supported our son to become president and we owe you some sort of a political debt. And you know that's implied in all these conversations.
Right.
And when you look at Musalia Mudavadi Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula, they're the people who are taking the biggest risk in the NASA arrangement. Because they have said they're not running for any political seats. So in the event that something happens, they'll go in the political call for a long time. Unlike Ruto, who is going to run for the gubernatorial position, for him at least is secure. So it's going to be a huge task now for Musalia and Wetangula to run and ensure that they deliver the entire Western Kenya vote.
Can he deliver 2.2 million votes? I mean, it's a big voting bloc. How is he going to deliver 2.2? Brian?
I think he's already getting the support from the umbrella that he has actually orchestrated in the name of NASA, and him being the midwife actually who spearheaded the coming of NASA. I think this time around he might get that kind of support from Western and get that ability to marshal the bloc into one voting basket. That's possible because when you look at the atmosphere at the Western part, you realize that they are now feeling more together than before. Initially, there were some sort of divisions between the Maragolis and the Bukusus and here and there, and other sub-tribes of the Luhya community. But this time around, when you see Maragolis and the Bukusus actually this time talking to each other, leave alone working politically together, that is an indication that this time around they are ready to work together in terms of voting as a community.
Right.
This is the only time that we are likely to see Western Bloc coming as a solid one, owing to the historical issues that we have also been treated to before, where there has been sort of divisions and divisive voting patterns. And this time around, Raila actually coming as a little bit more moderate in terms of ensuring that there's no bad blood coming in between Wetangula and Mudavadi. He brings that kind of glue that gels their communities together.
All right.
Sure.
Let's talk about Kalonzo Musyoka. He's expected to deliver 1.7 million votes. There are supposed cracks coming up in this Ukambani voting bloc in terms of the political leadership is concerned. Is this big enough to worry him or worry NASA?
No. I mean, NASA shouldn't be worried over statements made by Nyenze. If it was Muthama making those statements or somebody with a serious political capital, then maybe Kalonzo would be worried for a day or two. But right now, the kingmaker in the entire of the Kamba nation is Kalonzo. All Kalonzo needs to do is to do 3 rallies, one in Kitui, Makueni, and Machakos, and it will be a wrap. We'll be done with this. And if our Kalonzo had actually go to Nyenze's constituency and ask him to come and pledge his loyalty, whether he's loyal to NASA or whether he's loyal to Jubilee. And if he's loyal to Jubilee, then you ask him to run as an independent and support Jubilee. Because, the Kalonzo says that he's sacrificed, although one is unable to understand the nature of his sacrifice. But for Nyenze, it's very interesting. Nyenze has been in the Committee of 12. He was appointed by Kalonzo to go and negotiate for his behalf. And he participated in the decision-making process. So when you're in a committee of 12, you've taken a decision, the decision comes out, and then you decide to bolt. Right. He's not taking consequences for his decision. Right. He's not taking consequences for his advice. And as much as we say that advisors suffer no risk, I think really looking at it from a global context, it's bad manners that you participate in a decision-making process, and then if it doesn't favor your interest, then you bolt out away and start blaming the entire world.
Brian, another ally, David Musila, the Kitui senator, is an ally of Nyenze's, and he has also had such issues and has bolted out of the party's chairmanship after being defeated by Dr. Julius Malombe in the Kitui gubernatorial race. Is this more significant because he has spoken something like, you know, the Kambas are disenfranchised.
Of course, it is something to worry.
Does he has the support?
He has the support owing to the stature and the position that he occupied at the hierarchy of Wiper Party. And Kalonzo should not sleep on his laurels following Disma's statements that all is well in Ukambani and the community is gelled together ready for this year's elections. I will tell you that somebody of Musila bolting out of the party and leaving the chairmanship you know, vacant because of those disgruntlement within the party, I think is something that should make Kalonzo think twice. And when you listen to the voice of reason on the ground, Ben, you'll realize that this time round, Kambas feel really shortchanged this time round. This is the time that we are going to see the... Of course they are. This is the time... Wait a minute. This is the time that we are going to see...
That to us.
Yeah, this is the time that we are going to see a lot of voter apathy because, you know, the likes of Nyenze propagating the idea of the MOUs and all that, it is something that really has struck the Kamba community deepest in their ears. And they really want to understand what transpired, what changed at what point, how come that we are not the flag bearers this time around. And that kind of talk around, which I'm pretty aware, is really sending a lot of shivers within Wiper itself as a party. And the big fish who normally call the shows there, the likes of Mutula, can actually ascertain to you that all is not rosy at the ground.
Mutula has been on record supporting this.
He is on record, but
allow me to make a statement.
Yes.
You know, sometimes you go for a funeral and you find long-distance relatives wailing much louder than the bereaved. Here, Nyenze is crying louder than the bereaved. The person who is happy with this equation is Kalonzo. Kalonzo is very happy with this. So why would Nyenze be making noise? That's number one.
I wish I can finish up what I was saying.
Number two, sorry. Number two, this gentleman by the name Musila. If Musila had serious political capital, why was he walloped by Malombe in the gubernatorial race? If he had serious political capital, he would have probably gotten 200,000 votes, and then Malombe would have 10,000 votes. That's when you can say he's got political capital. If he's unable to convince people in his county to vote him for
how do you respond to that?
How does he convince the entire Kamba nation that this is a raw deal?
I just want to say that Kalonzo showed some sort of inclination at the initial stages where he at a roadside actually made a declaration that he had a soft spot for Malombe, the incumbent.
If I remember correctly, he said, let the three of them battle it out.
That was later. In fact, that was when he was trying to correct himself after now, you know, the chaos coming out in the play. He was categorical. He was on the record that he really wanted Malombe. If you could read his body language and even some of the utterances that he made, that did not augur well with his chairman. And he did what I can say a father who shows one side of the story, and the other side shows something different. When you look at the players,
that's fair enough. But also, I want to also on the other side of the coin is the fact that David Musila is a party chairman, and he had all the party machinery.
Well,
and could, if he wanted, and I asked him this: do you have the power to control this? And said yes, but I haven't. So what do you say to that?
I think, yes, that one I do agree that he had all the machinery to, you know, make things go on his way, but that did not go that way. One thing I want to attribute that is that first initial, you know, behavior, body behavior, and some few utterances from the party leader that he was really inclined towards Malombe.
Right.
That first of all, actually made things...
But can you allow me to buttress that point on the Malombe election? If Kalonzo showed preference to Malombe in Kitui and Malombe won, so between Kalonzo and Musila, what's political capital?
I want to tell you that Musila is not a pushover when it comes to Kitui politics.
But how come he lost to Dr. Malombe?
Putting this into context,
we had
what
issues
you
of
gentlemen are talking about,
as
far as this 1.7 million that Kalonzo Musyoka is supposed to deliver, can he deliver, or can Musila and the likes who have bolted out, where are they going? Jubilee? Can Jubilee have
running for president?
A slice of this?
First of all, this 1.47 is just the votes that are domiciled within the Kamba traditional zones. We have Kambas spreading across other counties like the Tana River. We have Kambas in Taita Taveta.
Yeah, we're talking about Lower Eastern. We're talking about what Kambani.
For this one is already a disenfranchised one. Look at Mutua's effect in Machakos also. He has made serious inroads. He has really made things look different for what one would say is a Kamba traditional voting pattern. Look at Jubilee, what they have done. They have also also done some mini roads. So Kalonzo, to get this block and give it to NASA solidly, it is going to be a very huge challenge, Ben. And therefore, the much Kalonzo can deliver to NASA, to me, would be maybe 1.2 out of this one. 500 will go to other areas.
All right. Let's leave that alone. Isaac Ruto, 205,000 votes. First of all, can he deliver that? And did he take a big risk? You said Moses Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi have taken the bigger risk. But can the Deputy President William Ruto marshal Bomet against their governor?
Okay, now let's look at Governor Isaac Ruto. Maybe we look at his historical perspective. Number one, he's a rebel. He doesn't fear run away from any risk or responsibility. He looks at the bull right at the horse, right at the nose, and he runs forward with it. The biggest asset that Isaac Ruto brings to NASA is not even the numbers, it's the nuisance value. That he'll be able to engage the Deputy President on matters of propaganda on one-on-one, and nobody can actually beat him. That's critically important. And then number two, you've got about 1 million registered voters from the Kipsigis community in Rift Valley.
Right.
Now, and I'm surprised they're giving about 200,000 votes.
He says he'll give 1 million.
1.2.
Again, that one is stretching it too far. He'll probably give 500,000. But that 500,000 coming from the Jubilee basket is huge. Those are huge numbers. And another thing that he brings to the table is giving the Kalenjin nation options. He's telling them that previously you could only vote for Jubilee, but right now I'm in the Pentagon in NASA, so when you're looking at how to cast your ballots, I'm actually giving you an option. And for him, he wants to take advantage of the Kipsigis annoyance with the Deputy President. There are most of the public appointments have gone to non-Kipsigis, and even award of public tenders and other such kind of businesses. And then he claims it's the Deputy President and I who formed URP. We are the architects, but he's got into power, he's decided to eat alone, and he's left us on empty tummies. And that's the kind of propaganda which he's doing and which is making a lot of sense. Even if he only delivers 100,000 votes, I think NASA will break into a dance and song.
What do you think about Isaac Ruto? Right?
If there's any politician who has spread his risks, political risk, then it's Isaac Ruto. Look at one hand, he has his gubernatorial, options also open. In the sense that if he wins, he is able to beat Laboso, he's able to be the governor of Bomet. On the other hand, if NASA wins, he's assured of a big role. If influence, in terms of influence, because he's not likely to bolt out or resign from gubernatorial seat and take the seat that has been preserved for him in the name of deputy, chief minister, and so on and so on. And therefore, he has spread his risks. And again, if you ask me what he has brought on the table, I'll tell you that he's a strategist. He's a good...
All right.
Yeah.
I want us to take a quick commercial break, but before we do that, overall, how strong is the NASA ticket? Previously on this show, you did say that picking Raila and Kalonzo on this ticket will be a straight win for Jubilee. A long time ago, you used to say that because of the kind of political emotion, tribal emotion that Jubilee would whip against Raila ticket. What are your sentiments?
And I still hold the same position. When you look at the voter turnout on average in Central Province during the several past elections, it's almost been 94%. So they're almost saturated. It cannot get better. But when you go to Lunyanza, sometimes it ranges 84%. Then when you go to Western Kenya, 75%. When you go to Coast, 75%. And I suspect that Mr. Raila Odinga and company have had that fear, the Raila phobia. And right now, when they're doing these mathematics, they're not even looking at the Central Kenya vote. They've actually chopped it away completely. That's why they decided to get Isaac Ruto to see whether they can get a portion of the Rift Valley vote. And I think now they'll be giving Joe a lot of resources to ensure that from the coastal region, you get a voter turnout significantly higher than 65%. Maybe it goes up to 80%. That's the reason why you have Musalia Mudavadi there and Wetangula, to ensure that the voter turnout on average, which is about 80-85% in Western Kenya, it comes up to a certain level. Because if you just focus only on the Raila phobia alone, then if you ignore the other variables, probability of losing it is very high. So they've just decided to say, the Central Kenya vote, let's leave it alone. And when they're doing their assumptions, they're actually working at 100% voter turnout in Central Kenya. Now the challenge, and I suspect for them moving forward, is to ensure that there is a very high voter turnout, especially from Western Kenya. Because for some reasons, members of the Luhya nation have not had a very high appetite to vote, even from the Kisii part of Western Kenya. So I think the biggest challenge today for NASA, in as much as your editors have been working on these numbers, is now to give the people in Western Kenya a very strong incentive to come and vote. And if I was part of their strategy, I would now translate this lineup into benefits for the voters. Because now you have a lineup, good, Raila is going to be a flag bearer. But how does that affect my bank balance if I'm in Kisumu? How does that affect my mortgage if I'm in Kakamega? Will I be able to become richer because of this lineup, or is it just going to be the status quo? So they need to craft a very strong message. If they're able to increase the voter turnout, that one will neutralize the Raila phobia.
How do you see this playing out, Brian? Can Raila Odinga and team win this or take it to a runoff? The Jubilee have been reacting to this. Deputy President William Ruto saying, now this is even confirmation that get 70% plus one. Is that based on anything, or are they speaking out of fear?
I think he's not speaking out of fear, but the person of Ruto is somebody who is knowledgeable in matters of elections. He was on record that they beat the government of the day when they were in the opposition, and he seems to be more confident than even before. And if you look at the numbers and the way they have been handling themselves, I think this time around they might live to that statement that Ruto said yesterday. The reason why I'm saying that is because if you look at how Jubilee has conducted itself in terms of its ability to contain the perceived fallouts in the just concluded nomination, this is something that we were expecting to create some sort of imbalances within the party and some voters going to the other side. But I think this time around we cannot say that they have really suffered that. And the kind of inroads, the kind of gains that they have made at the coastal region, the parts of Western, and also Ukambani, also the parts of Kisii, these are not some votes that you cannot dismiss like that. Look at the personality of Uhuru himself. He's likely to gain more votes because of that personality himself. He's a likable.
He'll get more votes from Kisii.
Of course, Kisii is a swing vote. It's a battleground. It is a battleground. That one I can assure you, it's a battleground because it's a swing vote.
All right.
Kisiis are traditionally have never been solidly on one side. They always go with the waves of the day, politically speaking. And this time around, we are not likely to see them actually jailing themselves as a community voting to NASA. But we are likely to see some pockets going to NASA and others going to Jubilee.
Respond to that. But what do you say to the fact that also the Jubilee administration over the last 4 years has been rocked by corruption issues and all that? Would you say that the enthusiasm that Jubilee supporters had in 2013 with the ICC, issue whipping a lot of emotion, is the same kind of energy they have right now?
Let me tell you, Ben, and I'll give you an example of Rwanda and the Kagame. Kagame might not be the right fella in terms of his behavior and the conduct as a president, but he wins 90% absolutely. Bringing this back home, when you look at the personality of Uhuru Kenyatta as a person, he's a likable fella who is likely to, as much as we are experiencing some turbulence in terms of managing of corruption, projects here and there, issues of wage bills, issues of borrowing and all that going at the roof, we are likely to see that not coming to play a major factor this time around, where Kenyans are saying, as much as we want to see this change, better the devil we know than an angel, we are being told. And therefore, that should play a big part in terms of harnessing more votes for himself. And again, I want to say that I have nothing personal with the personalities of ODM, I mean for NASA and all that. But going by history, if you look at the kind of perceptions that people have against the number one of NASA, they are still the same old traditional misperceptions that are going to play. These are going to affect him, that this guy is going to revenge. He's a vengeance person, is somebody who is driven by vengeance spirit, is likely to not protect the interests of the central community in terms of businesses and their interest. The Rift Valley sort of food for this country is not likely to support those kind of machines.
So
those kind
quick
of
response to that, and then we'll take a quick break.
Ben, are you not surprised? The brand is actually comparing Kenya and Rwanda, the electoral process. Rwanda is a country where the president wins by 99% or 99%.
Personalities.
In a democracy, the winning is supposed to be 51-49. That's how a democracy works. So when you win by 99% of the votes, you cannot really... I mean, if you are comparing Kenya and Rwanda...
I'm comparing the personalities, Dismas, not the 40 systems, the personalities.
You know, you're talking about an autocratic leader in Rwanda and you're talking about a democratic leader in Kenya. You cannot compare those two. That's oil and water. And then, maybe the last point that I want to make, because he made a point suggesting that Raila doesn't stand a chance. The Raila phobia in central Kenya has been cured by this lineup. There are the Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula have been told, go back to Western Kenya and work on your base. So Raila phobia now in this election is not going to be
allow me. Let me
and then
allow
number
you.
3, you cannot say, and I speak now this one as a member of the Kisii Nation. Kisii Nation is not a swing state. That's one is solidly on the NASA basket.
Ben, let me say something before you send me out on this one.
All right. Let's leave it there. We'll come back to talk about these issues. Let's now take you to Dagoretti North, where our Sharon Manyi is standing by, keeping an eye on the ODM nominations in that particular part of Nairobi. Sharon, good morning.
Good morning to you, Ben Kitili. We are at Kilimani Primary School, which is in Dagoretti North constituency, as you rightly said. And we saw earlier, the pictures that we streamed in earlier, the turnout here has really been quite large. And people came in as early as 6 a.m. And right here with me is the sitting MP, Dagoretti North MP, Simba Arati, who has also just cast his vote in this particular polling station. And we just want to speak to him for a little bit. And a good morning to you, sir. Many thanks for joining us on KTN News. How tough is this contest for you?
No, I just want to point out that I'm happy, the turnout of our people, to show the love they have for the party and having the strong candidates from the party level to present them at the national level. Therefore, there is nothing much, there is nothing like tough. Here is about loyalty. People, they are loyal to the party, and that's why they've come out. And indeed, even other aspirants, as long as they are members of the party, we appreciate that this is an in-house competition. Therefore, I'm certain that the exercise so far, it's good. Yeah.
And speaking of other aspirants, in the morning, one of the other contestants for particularly the MP ticket, Fantas, was here, and he claimed that you have brought in your voters from Kisii. What do you say to that?
I don't stay in Kisii, I stay in Nairobi. I'm a Nairobian. I've represented my people for 5 years. That's why they've come out in these numbers. And the issue, just that's a scare, just a scare from unknown factors. Simply because people, they have come out so many. What do you expect? If you ask me if I know even that candidate, I don't know him. I've not seen them. If you ask majority of these people, they know that gentleman. Therefore, it's only that they wanted to cause chaos in the morning. I'm happy that the police managed to handle it. And even the common mwananchi would not allow them to disrupt an exercise which is peaceful this way, and the turnout is this big. Because also we want to send out a message to our brothers in the other side, Jubilee, that we are prepared. Come August 8, we're there, we'll deal with you, especially in my constituency.
All right. And would you say the postponement of this exercise from Tuesday to today, has it had any impact?
I'm certain that we are more prepared than Tuesday. I'm sure on Tuesday we would have seen a lot of chaos, but today so many mechanisms have been put in place to manage the voting. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to us. And maybe from the other end, we can see a lot of activities taking place from that side. Perhaps we can just try to find out what is happening in that side. We can hear a few screams. There's so many people really here queuing to vote. So the sitting MP who is defending that ticket for Member of Parliament here in Dagoretti North, saying that he is confident with the credibility of this process, and also dispersing the allegations that was made by one of his competitors in the morning. And as you can see there, a queue of voters trying to make their way to the line. Moja, unaweza kutuambia shida ni nini? Tunasikia mnapiga kelele.
Shida tumepanga hapa line tangu asubuhi saa 1. Line haisongi, tujui shida ni nini. Wanafanya tu pole pole.
Line ni 3 hapa.
So shida yenu ni vile inaenda pole pole.
Wanafanya pole pole ndani ya hawarakishi na tumechoka.
Okay, Ben, so as you see, there are some discontent voters here saying because of there are so many, and saying that the process is a bit slow. That is why some of them were making some thoughts. And perhaps we can see one aggrieved member volunteering his sentiments to us. Shida namna gani?
Shida iko hapa Kilimani Ward. Cha kwanza, I'm an expert and I'm called Kenneth Mkangula. Nimeenda Lavington kwangu kuonyesha kura tayari imeshaibiwa. Hii slow movement unaona hii is just to buy time. Lakini kura imeibiwa. Kivipi? Kule Lavington tumeshika mtu amepewa ballot papers 3. Kwenda kutoa zimepatikana zingine 3 na za mheshimiwa wa hapa. A sitting MP 6.
Have you directed these complaints kwa wale officials?
Tayari ameshashikwa ako Mzangare. Hapa tena it has happened the same. Na the other complaint ya kwamba all clerks or agents wale wanafanya processing wametoka kwa community moja. The same community ndio ina supply ballot box. The same ndio agents, the same community ndio wanapanga ndio wanapangia watu. Is that ndio wanaharasi watu? Is that democracy? Na the moment you are speaking that tunasikia kuna kura ziliingizwa usiku na zimelindwa na polisi huko nyuma. Ukula ni kanisa. So na pia kuna polisi wameshapewa pesa. Kwa sababu tunaona. Kwa hivyo ninaambia Nairobi Election Board, in case kura hii iwe rigged, we are ready to go the other way. Watu wetu tutamobilize.
What is the other way?
Opposition iko.
Tutawapatia.
Sawa. Wawe tayari.
All right. Okay, Ben, as you can see here at the Kilimani Primary School, some discontent voters, they are saying that they are not sure, actually casting aspersions on the credibility of the exercise here. We saw earlier on in the morning a few other people also making the same allegations, against the sitting MP, Simba Arati, and we've just spoken to him and he says everything is fine. We spoke to some agents earlier saying that they were there to, try to ascertain that the ballot boxes, were empty and that the entire process is fair. So what we will try to do right now, Ben, is just to get inside there to find out exactly what is happening inside the polling stations, and we will be back to you with more details.
Thank you, Sharon. Sharon Mwanyi, they are coming to us live from Dagoretti North. A lot of drama there, some spirits getting high there. Of course, some of those voters there giving ultimatums and even threats. That is the ODM nominations there in Kilimani Primary School polling station in Dagoretti now. Thank you, Sharon. Of course, Sharon is keeping an eye on Dagoretti North and Dagoretti South as well as Westlands. We also have Sophia Wanuna in Embakasi East and West. Akisa Wandera is in Embakasi South. We have Timothy Otieno who is keeping an eye on things in Langata. We also have we have Mark Namaswa who is keeping an eye on things in Starehe and Mathare constituencies. We shall be taking you there to just find out how the ODM voting process and nominations here in Nairobi is currently, how things are there. Of course, Duncan Hayamba as well in Ruaraka and Kasarani constituencies, and Zinzi Kibiku keeping an eye on things in Roy Sambu. You're watching Sunday edition. Many thanks for staying with us. We are taking a quick commercial break. When we return, we shall be going to those locations to bring you the latest in these ODM nominations in the capital city county of Nairobi. Stay with us.